Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and this is my third video I'm filming today, and my second tag video that I'm doing. So I thought I would go ahead and do the exposing my TBR tag. Again, like the small booktuber tag I just filmed earlier, this was a tag I came across while watching a booktuber, and I don't remember which one at the moment, but I thought I would go ahead and do it. Okay, so first, question number 1 is how do I come across books to add to my TBR? Mostly BookTube. Occasionally I look on Goodreads, but mostly it's BookTube. Especially since people, on BookTube you can really elaborate and really discuss. Okay, so question number 2. Booktuber shout out to a person who adds the most books to your TBR. And I picked multiple people. So I wanted to kind of pick people from different, that focus on different genres. So Carolyn Marie Reads, Emma from Emma Books, Peruse Projects, Elliot Brooks, Reagan from Peruse Project, she's fantasy. Elliot Brooks is fantasy. Emma and Carolyn Marie Reads are like for the classics. Tristan the Classics is another one that I get, and there's one other person that I forgot to get their name. That does a really good discussions. The literature, like hard reads, literature, hard reads literature book club, something like that is the channel name, I think. But yeah, I had a little bit, especially with fantasy, because there's a lot of fantasy booktubers I watch. I was trying to decide which one of them is the one I get, check out their book recommendations the most. Even though Daniel Green is not a booktuber, doesn't consider himself a booktuber anymore, sometimes he puts, his suggestions. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna settle with the ones I just said. Okay, so question number 3. Book that has been there the longest. It used to be Count of Monte Cristo, but now I finally finished that one and read that one, and I didn't in the Lord of the Rings copy, and I guess I could say Lord of the Rings, but the copy I have now has not been there that long, because I got rid of my mass market copies at some point, so so I can't even say that one because the new copy I bought hasn't been there long. So the only other thing I can think of is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, because that's one I bought when we moved here. So it's been here since we moved here. And then I bought, his 2 main series, copies of his historical fiction series. Not because I know he's written quite a lot of books and not all of them are historical fiction. So yeah, Pillars of the Earth. Although to be fair to that one, I couldn't even count that one either now that I think about it, because it's a different copy than the one I had before. I had a mass market copy. And then I traded that in for a regular size copy. But I'm going to stick with my answer. Pillars of the Earth. Okay, question number 4. Most recently added book. And that answer has changed, technically, if I want to show the books that I just bought. But originally I said Perfume by Patrick Susskind. This is a book about a guy who does not smell. He physically does not have an odor, but he has a really amazing sense of smell. And he becomes obsessed with finding the perfect perfume scent. And he starts following people around and sniffing people. obsessed over one particular woman, I think. I figured now would be a great time to read this kind of book. But this was one of the Caroline Marie Reads and Emma books recommendations. I think more Emma book recommendations than, because I remember she read this book. And absolutely loved it, I think. Oh, and I guess Olive from, I forgot to mention Olive from Book Olive is another book too where I got a lot of recommendations from. So Olive from Book Olive. So I originally said this, but then I kind of wanted to include, go ahead and mention the books that I recently bought. So I'm going to, this one probably would fit the season more. This collection of H.P. Lovecraft stories, Call of Cthulhu. I hope I'm saying that right. So this has recently been added. I literally bought this the day, like, today as I'm filming, I bought it yesterday. And then there's these two nonfiction books, American Sphinx about Thomas Jefferson because of the Hamilton biography. And then this biography about Abraham Lincoln. I also bought, there's The Bridges of Marcour. This is, I did not really, when I first saw this, I did not realize this has anything to do with the Wicked books, which I almost bought Son of a Witch, the second book in the Wicked Year series. But like I said, I was more interested in the H.P. Lovecraft stories at the time, so I decided not to get that one. But this is related to the Wicked Years, and this is like after the granddaughter of Elphaba, I think. And so, which I guess he really loves writing about this world, about the world of Oz. Which, let's see. This is what it looks like. I also love the look of this book. This is why I bought the hardcover. And it's also, the cheap edition was clearance. So I was able to afford it. So I'm going to read that as well. I don't know when I'll get to that one yet, but... But first, I do need to reread The Wicked Years. The original series, because I never did finish it. Oh god damn it. I never did finish that one, so I want to reread that first. That's why I need to buy Son of a Witch. So you guys saw this books I got at the dollar store. I was thinking about reading this one. Although, actually, I probably will read not this one, but coming up, I will probably read this one. Esme Wells. Which is about a girl who grows up in in California, and then she ends up going with her father to Las Vegas to help Bugsy Siegel build his hotel. And so I thought now would be a good time to read this, at least before the summer officially is over. So that's been added as well, and then you guys know there's this one I'll probably wait on this one. The Unwilling, maybe in the winter time. And I want to get to that one soon, because what ends up happening is I'm like, I want to read this before it gets popular, it gets known on BookTube, and then by the time I read it, it gets noticed. I mean, that's what happened with Engines of Empire. I made sure I read that before I became aware, before I noticed that it was popular. People became aware with on BookTube. So I think this one I'm going to read for the season right now, for the month. And I almost bought the author's other works along with that one. Like, he had another book. Okay, so I didn't read the back, but let me go ahead and read it anyway. For nearly 2 decades, Jamie Warren has been running from darkness. He's haunted by a traumatic childhood, and the guilt at having disappeared from his disabled brother's life. But then a series of unusual events reunites him with his estranged brother and their childhood friends, and none of them can deny the sense of the fate that has seemingly drawn them back together. Nor can they deny the memories of that summer long ago, the strange magic taught them by an even stranger man, and the terrible act that has followed them into adulthood. In the light of new danger, they must confront their past by facing their futures and hunting down a man who very well may be a monster. So I'm gonna go ahead and I want to read this month. And then we have, I don't know if I'll read this now or wait until this winter, but The Personal Librarian, this was my sister's friend Wings gave this to me. She said, and okay, let me just go and read the back. In her 20s, Belle de la Costa Green is hired by J.P. Morgan to curate a collection of rare manuscripts, books, and artwork for his newly built Piermont Morgan Library. Belle becomes a fixture in New York City society and one of the most powerful people in the art and book world, known for her impeccable taste and shrewd negotiation for critical works as she helps create a world-class collection. But Belle has a secret, one she must protect at all costs. She was born not Belle de la Green Costa, but Belle Marion Greener. She's the young daughter of Richard Greener, the first black graduate of Harvard and a well-known advocate for equality. Belle's complexion isn't dark because of her alleged Portuguese heritage that lets her pass as white. Her complexion is dark because she is black. The Personal Librarian tells the story of an extraordinary woman famous for her intellect, style, and wit, and shares the length she must go for the protection of her family and her legacy, preserve her carefully crafted white identity in the racist world in which she lives. So I think I might wait until November or December to pick this up. I don't know. But yeah, this was also added. And then the other book I bought recently would be perfect for my plans this month is The House of Hollow. And from what I remember, reading the back, this is kind of like, actually, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Wayward Children series, where you have these 2 sisters coming back from being in a fantasy world, except for there's no magical school or anything that they can hide at. And one of the girls wants to go back to this world, but the other girl doesn't. And one of them gets taken, if I remember. Iris Hollow and her 2 older sisters are unquestionably strange. As children, they disappeared on a Scottish city street, only to return a month later with no memory of where they had been or what had happened to them. More troubling, their appearance began to change, their blue eyes now black, their dark hair now white, and as they grew older, odd, eerie occurrences seemed to follow in their wake. people find them disturbingly, intoxicatingly, unbearably beautiful, and inexplicably dangerous. Now, 17-year-old Iris is doing all she can to fit in and graduate high school on time. Something her two famous, glamorous, globe-trotting older sisters, Gray and Vivi, never managed to do. But when Gray goes missing, leaving behind bizarre clues as to her whereabouts, Iris and Vivi are left to find her. But they aren't the only ones looking. As they brush against the supernatural, Iris quickly realizes that the story she's been told about their past is unraveling, and the world that returned them, seeming unharmed 10 years ago, might just be calling them back. So I thought this would be a good book to read too now, as well. So there is that. So that was also recently added. Okay, so next question is, which book will I read next? And I put none of those just yet, the ones I just showed you, but I did pick up The Historian, which is about the idea of this young woman and her learning from her father that Vlad the Impaler might be alive still. So it mixes the Dracula myth with the real history. And it's a bit of a thriller. It's historical. I really love when they're exploring Europe and going to all these different countries, especially ones that I am not as familiar with because they're not considered as well, not as well known, because, you know, everyone hears about France, everyone hears about England, and Russia and Spain and all those, but they don't, there's the other smaller countries they don't hear about as much, or, you know, Ireland, Scotland. So I'm currently reading, so I did already start it. I'm trying to get past the number of pages I stopped at last time. I did have to put it down because it started to rain here, so I was trying to get all the cushions for our little couch that we have on the outside deck, trying to bring them in before the rain started, and then, you know, I decided to go and watch a couple YouTube videos. But, so yeah, we have this one. So this one I'm currently reading, and then I'm also currently reading from my library, Mary Jane, and I'm almost done with it. I'm really enjoying it. This was from a book olive recommendation. And then afterwards, I am going to pick up from the library books. I'm going to go ahead and pick up My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is a Stephen Graham Jones book. And I think he's one of the well-known authors where he's written a lot of books. Let me see if there's a list of all he's written down. Yep. So yeah, The Fast Roads, All Beautiful Sinners. The Fast Red Road, All Beautiful Sinners, The Bird is Gone, A Manifesto, Seven Spanish Angels, Demon Theory, The Long Trial of Nola Degatti, Lead Leather, It Came from Del Rio, Zombie Bake Off, Growing Up Dead in Texas, The Last Final Girl, The Least of My Scars, Flush Boy, The Gospel Zine, Not for Nothing Floating Boy, and The Girl Who Couldn't Fly with Paul Tremblay, Mongrels, The Only Good Indians. Oh, so that's the other book of his that I read, The Only Good Indians, which I really like that one. His novellas are Sterling City, Mapping the Interior, Night of the Mannequins. Those are his novellas. And his short stories and collections: 3 Miles Past, Attack of the 50-Foot Indian, Bleed Into Me, A Book of Stories, The Ones That Got Away, Zombie Sharks with Metal Teeth, 3 Miles Past, States of Grace, After the People Lights Have Gone Off, and The Faster, Redder Road. Okay, so this will be my second Stephen Graham Jones book I've read, because I did read The Only Good Indians. I really liked that one. I read that in November last year. Okay, so those are the books I'll probably read next. I'll continue Mary Jane and the story, and I'll get to Chainsaw. My Heart is a Chainsaw, and I don't know out of all these I'll get to next, but I do want to get to some of these soon. The ones I showed you guys. Okay, so that was question number 5. So we're in question number 6. Most anticipated book and why haven't I read it? And that is Atlas 6. I do not remember the author's name at the moment, which is funny because I watched someone talking about it in one of their videos. And I have not read Atlas 6 because I do not have it. I've not bought it, and I don't know if I've seen it at the library yet. I keep debating about buying it because it's not a big hardback, but hardbacks are still, they're still going to be expensive. More expensive than paperbacks. So, that's the only reason why I haven't read it, because I haven't had access to it yet. Like, I have had it and I've seen it at the stores, but I don't know if I want to buy it. Like, if I went to the Southern Pines bookstore, then maybe I would buy it there. But I'm trying to wait. I might put it on my Amazon wish list. But either way, I've not got it yet. So that's the only reason why I haven't read it yet. But I am getting, the more I hear, but the more excited I am to read it. Again, it's like dark academia. It's basically, these people are summoned to this place. And I think some of them are being hunted down and killed, I think. Either way, I'm excited to read it. I definitely want to read it. Okay, so next is, so books I added due to the hype. And I went ahead and picked Dune because it was just recently made into a movie, and part 2 will be coming, I believe, next year. Either later this year or next year, I cannot remember. I think next year. This is a sci-fi. I wasn't sure if I would like it. I had attempted it before, but I wasn't feeling it at the time. And then I decided to give it another shot, and I really enjoyed it. It took me a while to get into, and I wasn't 100% sure how I felt about it. But it's very popular. It's a classic sci-fi. Everyone recommends it. And the movie was great. The movie, that was another thing why this book went on people's radar, and got people's attention again. The writing style is a little different, and it took me a while to get into, but I really enjoyed it. I like the setting of the desert planet. I think that's cool. And it's a hero's, a chosen one story gone wrong, basically. And then we have, it's about the main, and then the second one is about the main character older, and then the third one is, I think, and then there's I believe there's 9 books. But I ended up really loving it, and it's one of my favorites now. Okay, so next question is the books that I added that I know I wasn't going to read. And I honestly don't, even though, I might take risks with buying books, I usually, when I buy them, I intend to read them. I don't ever buy books without intending to read them. I mean, maybe there are some over time that I end up deciding not to read. And then there are some that I'm worried about that I spent my money, and I worry that, maybe I won't. Like Children of Time, I'm worried about me getting into that book. Because, like, part of my, not getting into sci-fi is because I'm not heavy on the sci-fi. The science fiction part can be a little bit of a struggle. But there's never books I don't intend to read. There's just books that I might end up not reading later. And it does, like, also the dollar store books, there's a chance I might not get to those, but I do intend to read them at the time when I buy them. So I don't really have an answer for this. And I personally, I gotta admit, I don't understand why people would buy books just because, and knowing that they don't intend to read them in the future. Even if it looks really pretty, you know. I mean, I guess I do, buy some of those Barnes and Nobles, leather bound books. But when I bought them at the time, I did think, oh, I'm going to be, I'm being smart. I'm buying this author's work all in one big book, so it'll be so much easier. So at the time, I was all about reading them, but then, now I haven't. So I guess you could say I do that, but I mean, in most cases, in the back of my mind, I plan on reading them, and yeah, I might change my mind later, but that's about it. I might change my mind later about the book, but I usually intend to read them. And when you buy a book at the store, I don't see why you would not intend to read them at the time when you buy it. Like, yeah, maybe later you might change your mind, but in most, I would think that every book you buy, you're thinking in the moment, I'm going to read it. So I don't really have an answer. And even if I did do that, I don't have, I can't think of one specifically. I guess High Rise is debatable. I might get to that one. And I guess I will admit that I partly bought that one because it's the book that there's a movie adaptation of that book starring Tom Hiddleston. So I guess maybe that one, but at the moment, but then again, I do intend to read that one. When I bought it, I was like, I'm going to read it. And it was just one of these things where I saw at the bookstore. I was like, oh, I've been wanting to check that out, so let me go get it. And it was at the roast office, so it was cheap. So I don't know if that would count. Because, like I said, when I bought it, I was thinking I'm going to read it. Okay, and then any books that I will remove. There's books that I go back and forth with. I didn't remove Dracula. I guess Haunting of Ashford House. I read that one, and then I decided once I was finished, I'm not going to continue it. So I did take it off the shelf and put it in my donation pile. That's by Darcy Coates, Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. She writes a lot of haunted house stories, I've noticed. So yeah, I guess that one. I'm looking at my donation. Excuse me. It's just, I'm all of a sudden, as I'm talking, I'm feeling tired all of a sudden. I did remove the rest of the Outlander books. Again, one that I'm having a hard time coming up with an answer. And it is hard because I'm at that point where I can't decide which ones I'm worried. What if I don't find anything to get rid of? I don't have the room to keep all these books. I'm trying to, and although there are eventually books on occasion, like I debated about The Man Who Loved Children and The Sons of Adam. These were all books I got at the roast office. I can't read that one, but there's one that's a thriller, historical fiction thriller type story. I mean, it's not actually historical, but it's about, history, like history theories and stuff where, that's part of a series, one of those like Da Vinci Code-esque type stories where the author writes a bunch of books in this. I'm looking at it, but it's in a position where I can't read the title. That one, I don't know if I'll keep that one. Again, I intended to read it when I picked it up, but then I realized, I might not like this after all. So that's the closest I come to buying books that I end up not reading. Is there are books on occasion that I buy for cheap that I realize, actually, I'm not as interested in this one. But then I almost feel like I need to keep it because it's an old copy. It doesn't have the dust jacket, and I had to put tape on the binding because it was coming out of its hard back binding. So I put tape on it. So I don't know if the Roast Office or even the other bookstore I go to, the other used bookstore, which I need to schedule for that one. I need to schedule, because you got to call 24 hours in advance if you're going to bring a bunch of donated books. But it's kind of hard to do that when, like I said, I have to call my parent. I have to either take Uber or call my parents for a ride. So it's kind of hard to schedule that. And then they're not open on Monday, I think, because, it's an independently owned little bookshop, so they want to have the family who owns it wants to have longer than, because they're open on Saturdays, so they want to have Sunday and Monday off, because they don't have Saturday off. So yeah, that's, and then the last one is number of books on my TBR, and I don't know. It's a little over 200. I looked at my list recently because, I always add. I have a document that's all my books on my shelf. And, of course, there's more than that because that is just my standalone books. And a couple books that I had the first book in the series, but I don't have the rest of the series. And I end up leaving those books on. I just put those books on there until I buy the rest of the series if I decide to continue. So I don't know if you count the series. I don't know how many books. But this is, although most people, their TBRs are not necessarily all their books, but, in a way, all the books on my shelf are my TBR books that I'm going to read. So, anyway, so I don't know. I'm afraid to count, and I think it'll take too long to count because I know it's a lot, and I will always continue to buy books. So I always try to remove books off my shelf. But it's really hard to make a big dent. It's mostly a bunch of little dents. And okay. So I don't know. I don't know how many books are. I honestly just don't know, and it's gonna take too long for me to count. So, and I also don't want to because it's a little embarrassing. But anyway, so that is my exposed TBR tag video. If you want to do this tag, feel free to consider yourself tagged and do the tag. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you subscribe if you haven't and are interested in subscribing to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you thought it was a good video. And I hope you are doing well, enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.